Hello, everybody. Welcome into GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Monday, January 27th. We have a big show for you. Of course, we're going to be breaking down the NFL, AFC, and NFC Championship games that saw the Eagles and the Chiefs advance to the Super Bowl, setting up a rematch from Super Bowl 57. We'll talk about that, some head coaching news, some quarterback offseason news, and a massive trade in the NHL. We'll go over all of that and more coming up later on in the show for you. But before we get into the Chiefs, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday, January 27th. But like I was saying, we're going to kick off our show here today talking about the second game, the one that sends the Chiefs to their fifth Super Bowl in the last 6 years. That is a crazy streak on its own. To see the Chiefs be this successful is amazing. But let's break down this game real quick. They escape with a win against Buffalo, 32-29. And of course, with the Chiefs, there's going to be some controversy, but we'll get to that later. Starting off this game, the Chiefs just felt like they were never in danger of losing. They ended up surrendering the lead down the stretch, going down 22-21, allowing the Bills to come all the way back from what was an 11-point hole at one point for them. Josh Allen and the Bills had an amazing game. They really did. They were able to keep it close despite Patrick Mahomes being in the 99th percentile for success rate on drop back passes, which is not something we have seen traditionally around the league this year. It's been a much more run-heavy league, something that the Bills really did lean on, the way that they were able to dominate a defense that had not been dominated all season long on the ground. James Cook was having an amazing day. James Cook finishes the day with 16 touches, 13 rushes, finishes with 134 yards, and those two massive touchdowns, one of them to give them a lead on a 4th and goal. That was just an incredible effort play by him to keep the ball in the end zone and keep himself off the ground while diving. It was a crazy play right there by James Cook. He was one of the main reasons why they were in this game, but down the stretch, they took the ball away from him. And in a bubble, I don't necessarily have an issue with that, right? But when you're looking at what's been working all game, and I don't know what it is about Spagnuolo's defense. I don't know what it is about facing the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, but now 2 years in a row, the team that has had success running the ball against this Chiefs team, a vaunted Chiefs defense, one that I think is easily a top 3 defense in the NFL, they've gotten away from running the ball, right? You had a guy in James Cook who was having almost 8 yards a touch when he had the ball in his hands. You did not give the ball to him in the last 6 minutes of the game if you're the Bills. And that is just not a good look for what you're trying to do, trying to beat them for the first time in the playoffs, right? Now Josh Allen is 0-4 in his career against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the playoffs, and the Chiefs reach, again, their 5th Super Bowl in 6 years. They're going for the first ever three-peat in the history of the Super Bowl era. They're already the most successful team to be attempting a three-peat. No team that has won 2 Super Bowls in a row has ever made it back to the Super Bowl. The Chiefs now have a chance to make history. This team is amazing, not because of anything in particular, but because of their roster and their coaching. This is what we see when we talk about a team being complete, right? Up and down this roster, up and down this coaching staff, it's incredible how they have yet to be poached, especially on that coaching staff. I'm surprised Steve Spagnuolo did not get a couple of looks at for some coaching jobs this cycle. Maybe the Saints will have a chance to go get him after the Super Bowl is done. That's something that I think would be interesting, see if he can get back into coaching. But Andy Reid, one of the best coaches of all time, reaches 300 wins in these playoffs. That's incredibly impressive. You have Patrick Mahomes, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Chris Jones, one of the best active defenders in the entire league. You had Travis Kelce, who's probably going to go down as the best tight end of all time. And people like to talk about luck with this team. But really, a lot of times, what it comes down to is they're not making these mistakes. They're not making the mistakes that lose them the game while every other team is shooting themselves in the foot. Right? They were able to get pressure on Josh Allen. They forced 4 fumbles in this game. They end up losing the turnover battle 1-0 when then they fumble themselves. But still, 4 fumbles forced against the Bills. They didn't end up recovering any of them. But that's generally a good way to win games, punching these balls out, playing good, solid defense. But at the end of the day, there were a couple of controversial calls in this game that I want to get to. Right, starting off with the catch that was called for Xavier Worthy, one that didn't look like a catch to me. Right, into a crowd, Xavier Worthy goes up and gets it. They're hand fighting with the ball. It looks like it hits the ground. The refs, after a challenge, review it and they say it's a catch, right? And that one, I don't think it was. But did it really affect the game? Did either of these two things that were the big controversies really affect the game to the point where they wouldn't have had the chance that the Bills had down the stretch? No, I don't think it did. Would have made it easier for the Bills to win? Sure, I'm sure it would have. But that one in particular, I don't think moved the needle that much. The one that was very interesting was the spot of Josh Allen. On that 4th-and-1 call, 4th-and-inches, they end up running a tush push. He gets stood up there. A bad spot. It goes to review. The spot is just not very good. And it's a turnover on downs there. Now, that one I can understand people thinking, that's going to be a bigger deal because that leads directly to a Kansas City touchdown. Patrick Mahomes doing stuff with his legs that he hasn't been able to do all season long. Patrick Mahomes finished the day 18 for 26, almost 70% passing. 245 yards, a touchdown, and added 2 more touchdowns on the ground. He had a massive day with his legs, which is not something we are expecting, but that was the weakness of this team. That was the weakness of this Bills defense. We talked about it all week long last week when we were previewing that Ravens game, but the thing that was going to get the Bills in trouble was their defense, and they became very, very thin in the secondary, which is why I'm surprised which is why Patrick Mahomes was able to have so much success. Again, that 99th percentile, but I'm surprised they didn't rely on it a little bit more. That you didn't have Tyler Rapp to begin this game. You lose one of your corners to a concussion in the middle of this game. That makes life a whole lot harder for this team that already was by far the worst defense in this matchup. Right? The Chiefs defense, like I said, definitely a top 3 unit, and we've seen the importance of these defenses, right? The Bills defense allowed the Chiefs to get over 30 points for the first time all season. And that seems like a shocking stat, but that Chiefs offense that a lot of times we think of as unstoppable was just playing ball control football a lot of the time. We saw that again in this game, but they were able to, thanks to some short fields, thanks to some special teams plays, they were able to go out there, they were able to get over that 30-point mark, and they were able to find their way to get to yet another Super Bowl. And that's one of the things that I think we need to be applauding this Chiefs team for. Rather than looking for ways to pull them down from their pedestal, we need to look at why this Chiefs team is amazing. And it really is for 2 reasons, right? They're a dynasty, first of all, and the reason they're a dynasty is because of coaching. Andy Reid and what he's been able to instill into this unit. Andy Reid has always been an incredibly successful coach, even in Philly when he had the label of being a playoff choker, or early on in his career with the Kansas City Chiefs, he was labeled as a playoff choker, not being able to get those big wins. Obviously, now that has completely changed with Patrick Mahomes coming in and being as successful as anybody else has been in the history of the NFL to begin their career, right? 7 straight appearances in the AFC Championship game. There has not been a single season where we have where Patrick Mahomes has been the starter and they're not in the AFC Championship game. That's a stat that's only been done once before by Tom Brady, who did it 8 times, and we're looking at a good chance that it's going to happen again. But aside from that, again, that coaching staff is amazing. That's one of the things that I think is being a little bit undervalued here. We've seen a lot more attention on the value of a good coaching staff this season, especially when we take a look at some of the names that have made it this far, right? There's a lot of heat being put on Sean McDermott right now from Bills fans, from people around the media, because he did not have himself a good game, and he's been unable to get over the hump. Do I think Sean McDermott is a guy that needs to get the boot in Buffalo? Absolutely not. He's done an amazing job, especially this year with this team. Josh Allen had a great year, but this was a team that lost so much talent in the offseason. What he was able to do to get the Bills here is nothing short of impressive. We can talk about that Dalton Kincaid play down the stretch, and that is the big one, right? He ends up not making the play. I'm not trying to blame it on him. Steve Spagnuolo just draws up a great blitz, one that gets through that Bills offensive line almost immediately, put Josh Allen under pressure. He makes that throw, which most other quarterbacks in the NFL could not have made. And he's able to go out there and he's able to get it to a spot where Dalton Kincaid could make this play, able to keep this game going. Instead, it falls through his arm, and the Chiefs find a way to just run out the clock there. Samaje Perine makes a big play, and he's able to get that first down, put the Bills out of commission, send them packing for the fourth time in 4 matchups in the playoffs. It was a great game. It was one of those that's going to go down as a real missed opportunity for the Bills. But at the end of the day, trying to find reasons for why this team wasn't winning the game, trying to find reasons for why the Bills are unable to do it, a lot more credit just needs to be given to this Chiefs team. And I have not been seeing that a lot as we look around social media today. They've been trying to blame things. They've been trying to put up conspiracy theories. And that's fine if you want to joke about it, I guess. But if you're being completely serious about it, it's just a non-factor. This Chiefs team is amazing. They have all-time talents at multiple positions, and that coaching staff is one of the best in all of the NFL. And that's why it seems like they can't win. That's why they have that devil magic around them, right? That's why that narrative has been given to them. But they've been playing their best football right now. They've been playing their best offensive football of the season down the stretch here, which I think is something that's really impressive ever since a guy like Hollywood Brown came back, giving them more weapons, giving them the more ability to go out and stretch a defense thinner than they had earlier. Hollywood Brown, since he's been out there, that Chiefs offense has had a noticeable uptick in scoring, and I think they're getting hot at just the right time for the Super Bowl. They have a knack for doing that, but they went out there and they were just simply the better team. The Bills didn't really feel like they had a shot there. Now, they obviously did, but it always felt like the Chiefs were going to find a way to come back and win this game. The Bills lost this one. Chiefs just won. And there's no other conspiracy theory there. But let me know what your thoughts were. I'd love to hear it. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we turn our attention to the other game, the NFC Championship game that saw the Eagles historically dominate the Washington Commanders. We'll talk about that and more coming up next here on GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast.